I get it. You're working a job right now and it pays the bills, but it's not necessarily the most fulfilling work. Maybe you got a 9 to 5 where your boss is always on your behind, checking over your shoulder, and you got to wear this ugly headset. Maybe you're working a great job. Maybe you're making 6 figures, quote unquote, a dream job, yet you're bored as hell with the nature of your work, looking for a complete change. Maybe you want to find an industry or a career path where you're going to be able to change the world and help many people along the way. Maybe you should get into crypto. Welcome to Corporate to Crypto. I'm Ryan Dennis, here with ICO Alert. ICO Alert is the only comprehensive, trusted discovery platform for initial coin offerings and pre-ICOs. Welcome back. We're going to be talking today with Todd White. Todd White is an excellent resource for governance strategies. I believe he's one of the foremost flag bearers for the intersection between gubernatorial processes and initial coin offerings / security token offerings. I couldn't believe I could get this guy on the podcast, so I had to talk his ear off. This is going to be the first of a 2-part series with Todd. But before we begin, why start a show called Corporate to Crypto anyway? Blockchain technology is clearly changing the world. There isn't a person in the United States who hasn't heard of Bitcoin. And if you're eager to learn about how you might be able to join the blockchain industry, it's time to hit the subscribe button, my friend. In this series, we're going to interview founders, CEOs, major players, entrepreneurs, and just associates like you and I in and outside of the blockchain space to get the straight up facts about how individuals and industries alike are literally making the transition from tradition to transcendence, all with the enigmatic power of blockchain related technologies. My first guest, Todd, is a great guy, super nice, super cool, very knowledgeable. I would say he's an expert in governance strategies. He's actually the managing partner of the Washington, D.C. based Rulon and White Governance Strategies. With more than 10 years of government relations and political experience, he brings in-depth knowledge of the intersection of several key issues with blockchain, including internet privacy, pension, healthcare, financial services, investment banking. He's even petitioned the People's Republic of China. That's China, people. And honestly, I could spend all day going on and bragging about Todd's experience, so I will. He's also been involved with numerous congressional races across the United States. He's been a social policy leader. He's even lobbied the U.S. House and Senate in association with the Congressional Black Caucus on HR voting rights, and that's a really big deal. As a result of taking effective action with congressional leadership, he was actually personally invited by President George W. Bush to the White House to witness the resigning of the historic 1965 Voting Rights Act legislation. Big deal. He currently sits on the Harvard University John F. Kennedy School of Government, where he raises financial resources for deserving diversity students. He's from the Midwest, and he's an alumni of Harvard University. Is there anything Todd White can't do? I don't know. Let's ask him. What else can I say? He's also fluent in Spanish and beginning Chinese and Mandarin. So, Todd, is there anything you can't do? Welcome to Corporate to Crypto.
Ryan, it's a pleasure to be with you this morning and your audience. And that was just a very welcoming introduction. There's a lot of things we can't do. It's a pleasure to be with you, and very excited to talk about this new paradigm shift in the space of cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you as always. I mean, we've chatted a couple times and we've become quite good friends. I'm really excited to share with people how we met. We actually met at Token Fest. Todd, can you kind of get into the genesis of, first and foremost, how did you end up on this podcast with me? What were you doing at Token Fest? And, what was that event like from your perspective?
Yeah, Token Fest was a maiden voyage cryptocurrency blockchain technology related event. And boy, was it ever a success. I was a speaker on a panel of many panels that took place over the course of 2 days out in San Francisco, California. And what I was all enthralled about is I had the pleasure of sitting down and speaking to some of the thought leaders that were invited to this conference, such as Charles Hoskinson, who was the former CEO of Ethereum that now runs Cardano. Had a chance to have dinner with Tim Draper, few folks from Coinbase. And I find that this event was probably going to be on the top 3 of major conferences in 2019. And I think that this is an incredible event that I think if anyone has an opportunity to participate in, going forward, please make the plans to do so. That's for sure.
That's excellent. I didn't know you had dinner with Tim Draper, and that's really exciting. I saw him speak with his son, Adam Draper, who's a big VC investor, and they're both just brilliant people, very like charismatic people to watch talk about crypto because they're really excited about it. So on that note, tell me how you got into cryptocurrency, or tell me about the first time you ever even heard of blockchain or crypto. Like, what was your first experience like, this might be something?
Yeah, that is a great point you raise as to how we got into this. We were actually representing 4 Fortune 500 companies on Capitol Hill on the issue of internet piracy back during the Obama years. Back then, that was back in 2010. It was right after we had come out of the challenges with the Dodd-Frank Act, which is another issue. But what ended up happening is the internet piracy, the internet and slowing it down, net neutrality, brought in a lot of folks, a lot of CEOs to Capitol Hill because it began to be a big issue with the with FCC kind of guiding this issue. And during this time, the word blockchain, which no one really knew what it meant at that time, began to surface. And we began exploring it closer from the standpoint of why blockchain technology would kind of usurp the issue of internet privacy when it comes to government regulation. And as we kind of moved more toward it and had more conversations with our clients in the Fortune 500 space and their interest in adapting new technologies, we listened. And as we kind of came around the mountaintop, so to speak, we realized that this was going to be a technology of the future. So that's kind of how it evolved in a very broad sense, and we're very excited to where this technology is going to go into the future. And I think that it couldn't come at a greater time in our democracy, and given the issues that we are dealing with regard to fiat currencies.
Right. Fiat currency issues as well as privacy issues, security issues. There's always things coming up. It seems like the internet is causing more chaos than ever. And we're kind of wondering if you think that blockchain will cause more chaos as ever, because a lot of people have been introduced to cryptocurrency and blockchain in weird ways. Maybe they were in an Uber, or they were in at the coffee shop. By the way, do you use Google Maps or Waze, Todd?
Great question. I use Waze. I prefer Waze. I've evolved from Google Maps to Waze, and I just think it's a little bit more comprehensive of a technology, and I prefer an app, a specific app.
Okay, let's pause for a second. Here, I wanted to ask Todd, how did he get into cryptocurrency? Well, the show's called Corporate to Crypto anyway, and had to share a little bit first about how I embarrassingly got into crypto a little bit too late. Either way, I think it's pretty interesting that Todd saw blockchain technology for the first time as a truth teller. The reason I bring that up is because you were kind of introduced to it within your work, which is brilliant because you probably got in an at least appropriate introduction to it. Mine was rather crude. I was sitting in an Uber, and the gentleman was using Google Maps, and I was like, "You got to get Waze, man." And he's like, "Technology these days, how do you keep up with it?" I'm still trying to understand what blockchain is, and the funny thing about that is my brother had asked me to buy some Bitcoin 2 or 3 years prior. I mean, I'm talking 2011. My brother actually was telling me to get into cryptocurrency. And I actually ended up buying some Bitcoin, $5 worth, I think in around 2013. And that has ballooned to over $150 since then. worth. But when I was sitting in this Uber, this gentleman was telling me, all about this stuff. And I was like, wow, like if this guy is getting ahead of the curve, before I am, and I'm working in corporate America, then clearly there must be something to it that I'm missing out on. Both he and my brother can't be wrong because they're on opposite sides of the country. So when you, from a personal perspective, right, I'm very interested in the technology. I'm very interested in the investment standpoint. That's all cool stuff. But a lot of people are still trying to wrap their heads around what is the point of blockchain and cryptocurrency. So can you, from like a personal perspective, what do you think what was it about it that made you open your mind to it and you were open to the idea? Because a lot of people reject it.
You know what? It's a great question. I can sum it up for you quickly. Blockchain technology is an decentralized, immutable, it's a truth teller from the standpoint of databases. There are sequences within or on the overlay of blockchain technology that are I guess you could put it to be privacy. There's private transactions that can be done on the blockchain, but at the same time, it provides ledgers that everyone can see what is taking place, and I think that that's something that's really, really important in this age of anti-monetary laundering, money laundering, things that can be stolen. And I think that it is a great runway to what can be here in the next 5 to 10 years.
Mm. Yeah, a lot of it is speculative, right? I think that's a good way to kind of introduce it to people is the biggest use case for blockchain technology, the biggest cryptocurrency is Bitcoin. And I've seen some people describe Bitcoin as Coca-Cola. Maybe it's not the best for you. Maybe it's not the best product in the world, but it's probably going to be around regardless because of how big and common it has become, commonly accepted. So when you look at cryptocurrencies in the world of ICOs, and they're kind of speculative, and some people think that all ICOs are scams or all fundraising for cryptocurrency is just, it's not really legitimate. It's not as legitimate as an IPO. Can you share with me why somebody with your background in politics and with the government and with very officialized systems and operations would see this as a good standpoint for your company to, benefit off of, and how you kind of made that decision with your team?
Well, I think the hallmark of our business model, Ryan, is all on public policy and regulation. And with the advent of ICOs being the Wild West of financing as it's come to be, with it being in a gray area where it doesn't really fit into the conventional or today's legislative framework, we thought it would be a compelling conversation to have and be able to make a contribution to kind of straightening out what ICOs are. And by virtue of that, we have really upped our base of clients within this ICO space and kind of navigating them through the regulatory thicket to kind of prevent prevent basically the issue of subpoenas by the SEC lawyers.
Yeah, the funny thing about working with cryptocurrencies is a lot of people think that they don't understand it, so they don't think that it's legitimate. It's not as legitimate as a dollar. Why do you need a Bitcoin when there's already a dollar? That's a common conversation I hear when I speak to people about cryptocurrency for the first time in their experience. And it drives me nuts because the value of a dollar is based on trust. and these different factors that you can't really quantify. It's just a unit of measure for value. And I think that cryptocurrency has broken open the philosophical conversation for everybody on what value is. So do you think from, like a philosophical standpoint that cryptocurrency is good for, like the earth? Do you think that people in general could use cryptocurrency? And do you think it's going to provide value to us over time or create more madness and manipulation and things of that nature?
I think that's a great question, Ryan. I think my personal thoughts, and I think many within the crypto space would concur with me, is that I think as time evolves, it's kind of like, by analogy, the computer. When the first Commodore computer came into the market, there were codes and things of that nature that had to be put in place. And as the internet and computing systems evolved, it became just a point and a click. And I think that the usage of cryptocurrencies in this space will likewise evolve, where it's just an app, it's a point and click, and it's done in that type of sequencing.
Okay, I've heard a lot of people describe blockchain technology as the second coming of the internet. But for some reason, when Todd describes it from the infancy of the Commodore computer, I believe him. So let's get into what ICOs really are and take a step back before we get way too technical for any potential first-time listeners. I love the fact that we are working in this industry and we're doing such completely different things, yet the commonality is we're trying to move the industry forward because we see some value and we're both still trying to wrap our heads around it. So I think for anybody listening, if you're not sure what an ICO is or a cryptocurrency is, well, an ICO is an initial coin offering. Basically, it is a new fundraising model for businesses to raise capital, to raise money. So if you are familiar with IPOs or initial public offerings, that's when a company like your Facebook or your Google will take their company public so that different accredited investors may purchase shares of the company. And these shares don't come cheap. And in order to get in on this action, you got to have some bread. Tell me if I'm wrong, Todd. To be an accredited investor, you need to have proof of at least $200,000 in annual income. Or working liquidity of $1 million. And there's some other factor. Yeah, there's some other factors as well where you've got to get some paperwork together. And let me tell you, I know I'm a very popular guy, at the different companies I've worked with. I've worked with very few accredited investors, even in the Fortune 500 companies I've worked with. A lot of people like to have nice cars and nice homes, but you can't apply your car or your home to your income when you're trying to become an accredited investor. So why is it that so many people don't understand investing? It's because you're not allowed to play in the game. And ICOs is a new fundraising model where you can actually instead of turning your company into breaking up into different shares for an initial public offering, you can break up your company into tokens or coins. That's why it's called an ICO, an initial coin offering. So just to give a little bit of a background there. So Todd, do you think that coins, tokenizing things is cool, or it's just fun? Is it going to be around for a long time? Are security tokens going to take it over? What do you think is going to happen moving forward?
I think the language of what, as we today define tokens and coins are today, certainly the language of what they are and what they do as things continue to scale in a logarithmic way will change. And they will be called different things as the internet builds out, and as the cryptocurrency space, blockchain technology, as we kind of migrate in from 1.0. We're going 1.0 to 2.0, and as we get into 5.0 in the years to come, it's here to stay. But the meanings of things as the sequencing of technologies, new technologies, embraces, will certainly change.
So what is this is kind of a sidebar, yet what do you think is the most legitimate, fun project out there in cryptocurrency? I'm not asking you for financial advice. I'm not asking you which do you think you would invest in. When I see different ICOs, a lot of people get excited about, well, this one actually seems legit. That's the term that I hear people say. This one is legit. And it really makes me realize that cryptocurrency is doing the same thing that the US dollar or even a euro is trying to do. It's all about legitimacy, right? Crypto, if we trust in it each, then it's legitimate. So are there any projects that you've seen out there that you think are quite legit?
Yes, I do. I want to put my disclaimer out in the public ethos. I am not a financial advisor, but I think those investments that focus on anti-money laundering and that really embrace the Know Your Customer KYC framework and have registered as an ICO. Those are the companies that are going to flourish. Those are the companies that are getting definitely the support of the regulatory agencies and those who are, I think, building rapidly and potentially can basically partner with a lot of government entities. I think that's where you're going to see the flourishing of this type of organization or business model, better stated.
So why would it just be now in 2018? This great country's been around for hundreds of years now. Why is it just now that we're allowing retail investors and the layman or woman to invest, or however you identify, to invest in cryptocurrencies or companies at $10 instead of, why is this just becoming a new thing? Why do you think there's been such a high barrier of entry for people to invest in companies until now?
Well, I think that when I qualify your question as cryptocurrencies and the like, I just think that we've seen in from a macroeconomic perspective, we are seeing a paradigm shift from the standpoint of, and I could go many directions on your question, but we're dealing with a shrinking U.S. dollar. We are dealing with a debt level within the United States of over $21 trillion. And there has to be a medium, or better stated, an alternative of money and opportunity for those who, by which can counterbalance our economy, or thus keep our economy expanding. And I think that it's just these forces have kind of come to an intersection where we can now begin to expand our thinking, and our consumers and other people who have been kind of locked out of these unique opportunities are now able to participate, I think is where we are today, to your point.
Let's discuss the social impact of cryptocurrency. It's all over the news. It's all over the web. Everybody's talking about blockchain and Bitcoin. And just today, we were texting earlier, and I'm sure you saw that story about Jay Clayton, who famously said that all ICOs are probably securities. As recently as this week, saying, well, Bitcoin is not looking like a security now. Tell me, what do you think he means by this, gigantic mammoth of probably the news story of the year, right? Bitcoin for 2017. Why it's not a security after all the huffing and puffing the SEC is making about, these things are investments and we need to watch out.
Well, I think that, and actually I have sat on a panel with Mr. Clayton about 2 years ago at JFK School of Government. And we were there to discuss two different things from the standpoint of regulation. And I had an opportunity to kind of talk to him a little bit and I've gotten to know him better over these years. And one thing that I really respect about Mr. Clayton is the fact that he takes a light-handed approach to things. He's an even-handed individual. And to your point with regard to what this technology is, and certainly it is a security, it isn't a security. What I think he is kind of embarking on is that there needs to be an overhaul of the Securities Act of 1933 that was, drafted nearly 80, 90 years ago. And now we need to totally update the legislation that, brought in the current security rules and regs that we abide by. The cryptocurrency space does not fall within the current construct. So it's going to have to be rewritten, revised. And as of recent, just a few days ago, just 2 days ago, Mr. Giancarlo was at the Milken Institute, which was essentially an event that was basically, you have a lot of members of Congress, you have other world leaders come together, and what they were talking about, the state of financial regulations that were passed after Dodd-Frank. And the conversation of blockchain came up. And the one thing that surfaced out of this conversation is that there has to be a different way of thinking within government. There has to be a different way of approaching new technologies, and hence what that really aims at is reconstructing our regulations to allow the nuances of blockchain technology.
And these protections, the efforts that the SEC, the CTFC, and all of these bodies of the United States that are trying to decide what ICOs or cryptocurrencies are, they're inherently there. I mean, the reason their purpose is to protect investors, to protect Americans. I mean, that's the same as any body of government, right? It's to help us in some way, shape, or form as American citizens. So within the United States, I see a lot of people who are investing into cryptocurrency, young and old, trying to decipher the actions of the SEC as trying to raise their fist or maybe stomp on cryptocurrencies because they want to get a piece of the action financially or economically. And I think that some people, I definitely was of the opinion that the reason the SEC and all these people are trying to label cryptocurrencies as illegitimate is because the government, the man, right, the powers that be want to take some of my money. And I think over time, I've really developed a nuanced opinion that it is their function to protect investors. That's why they exist as a body, especially for the SEC. And I think that a lot of people are really stressed when I talk about, ICOs to them, especially the investors that I know. They're very stressed. They're not sure where this is going. They're not sure what the SEC is going to do. And I think that they're worried about another recession, like a crypto recession, because if you've dipped your fingers into the world of Bitcoin in the past 2 or 3 years, then you've gotten in at significantly higher prices than years past. And if sort of like the housing market recession that was occurring when I was just getting out of college, I was on the front lines of people joining corporate America when there really weren't any jobs for us, Todd. There weren't any opportunities for us, and companies really didn't have the capital to pay for new people. So when you got a job, you were working a lot and for low income. And I saw a lot of upper management people who were, again, very stressed about what is going to happen to my house. And so I think for millennials, at least, that's all I can speak on. We've seen our friends, families, and others lose their homes and lose their investments, and the amount of depression that it puts on the morale of this country after such an event is pretty wild. So I'm not sure that the SEC and the CTFC or they want these things to occur in a way that really downturns the market or anything like that. Yet I do think that the trading has gotten out of hand. The reason I say that is because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like people are looking at cryptocurrency as an escape from using traditional currency sometimes, or from handling their bills, or they want to get ahead in life. And you and I would both agree that getting money quickly means you might lose it quickly. And some people have labeled crypto trading as gambling. So do you think cryptocurrency trading, is gambling? Do you think it's dangerous? And by the way, I've definitely, seen people have success with cryptocurrency and do well. And I've seen people lose a lot of money. So it's not just one opinion of mine, because I'm not a trader yet. What do you think about it from the basics of a retail investor, somebody who just wants to get ahead in life? Do you think it's a good path for people to even look at trading as something that's interesting, or should they just keep doing their research?
Well, I think you touch on a couple of thoughts that I therefore have as well. Certainly it needs to be heavily researched before you embark on investing into cryptocurrencies, because it is still an unregulated industry. I also think that there are immense risks at this stage of the evolving cryptocurrency space. And I think that with the marching in of new exchanges being put up by Goldman Sachs and several other major investment houses, I think that it legitimizes some of the alt currencies, and including the major top three cryptocurrencies and I think that what we really need to do is we need to make sure that we are properly promoting certain cryptocurrencies and educating the marketplace in what they are and how to evaluate them. And that's typically why we have Regulation A, Regulation CF, and Regulation D, and the derivatives thereof. That's the initial purpose of any kind of offering circular or of a cryptocurrency company. And that's where I think that the SEC can be very helpful. But I think that it has to be, gently applied, and then within layers systematically over time, as we try to get a new construct on this ever evolving technology.
Really appreciate you saying the SEC should treat people gently, because that's a very nice way of putting it. They are very much so responsible for how the market turns. When you saw people buying into cryptocurrency in November of 2017, the market absolutely exploded for cryptocurrency because Bitcoin shot all the way up to, what was it, $20,000 a Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think it peaked around 20,000.
Yeah, I mean, that was insane. So everybody, there was definitely a day of there was definitely a day of the year in November 2017 when that's all anybody was talking about that day was Bitcoin. And it didn't matter where you were or what's happened, but it seems like there was a fundamental shift in our country then. And what I've seen since then, because the price is now, tiptoeing around $10,000, nearly half that, and time has passed. So if you've made some economic projections to buy your house off of that $20,000 Bitcoin you bought, then you're at a 50% loss now, and you're going to have to make 100% gain to get back there. So if you're doing well with cryptocurrency trading, I really hope that you not only look at the benefits of it, but you also look at the serious risk of greed. Because when the market is doing well, if you're a new trader or an inexperienced trader, you're going to buy stuff you don't need. And I'm talking crap. That's kind of the whole culture behind, I've seen around cryptocurrencies and altcoins is people talking about Lambos. It's fun to talk about buying a Lamborghini when you make some funds. But when the market is not doing well, these same people who are so excited about cryptocurrency trading are dejected and depressed and blaming the government and other people and not being able to face up to the risks that they've been taking. So my question for you, Todd, would be, what is a good resource for people to go to in order to get great information on how to get started understanding cryptocurrencies, security tokens, or initial coin offerings, other than the amazing ICOalert.com?
I think that that's a great start. And then there are other websites that are out there. There's always you want to Google. I think is another broader measure of research. But I think it's an industry that's evolving, and I think that you go to many sources and not just one or two. But I do suggest ICO Alert as being the first of many opportunities to dig deep and understand what an alt currency or what an ICO is doing. I think it's very important that you're well researched before you take any kind of action in this industry. This new burgeoning industry, I might add.
It is burgeoning. And I think that's the point of this show, is to discuss how people can kind of delve from their 9-to-5 jobs where they're very concerned about pleasing their boss. And a lot of people are excited about cryptocurrency because perhaps it could change their life. Perhaps they can make some extra money. But before that is understanding that maybe this is just an industry that could bestow upon me many more opportunities for advancement in my career. Because blockchain technology, like Todd is saying, do your research in several different places. Blockchain technology touches culture, arts, music, societal impact, governments, finance, technology, math, science, and everything in between, even quantum physics. This concludes part 1 of a 2-part series where we interview Todd White of Rulon White Governance Strategies. For the second part, stay tuned and subscribe to ICO Alert. This has been Corporate to Crypto, where we're aligning and bridging the gap from traditional business to transcendence. Make sure you subscribe to ICO Alert for more information, and if you want to be a part of our community, join the only trusted ICO discovery platform on the internet and check out our new My Portfolio function. Thanks again for listening. I'm Ryan Dennis. Have a great day. ICO Alert maintains the only trusted comprehensive list of pre-ICOs and initial coin offerings. This Pittsburgh-based startup has grown to serve over 1 million users in less than a year. But how did it get started? Well, at first, the company was just an online tool for two brothers, Mike and Rob Finch, to keep a calendar of their favorite ICOs. After just a few months, the team has grown to over 14 team members and produced hundreds of ICO reports. These in-depth reports feature exclusive interviews and offer insight into past, active, and future ICOs. Head on over to ICOalert.com, meet the team, and use their game-changing My Portfolio function. Track your favorite blockchain projects. Become your own venture capitalist. Only at ICOalert.com.